The MCC9 teams were announced a few days ago, and you know what that means. Analysis and prediction time! With some very interesting teams and lots of great new players, MCC9 will be bigger and better than ever. So let's get started. As I said in my MCC8 analysis, I'm splitting this video into two parts, an objective analysis and a subjective analysis. When what I'm saying is subjective, it'll be clearly displayed on the screen, like this. Okay? Before all the numbers come flooding in, let's look at a few team highlights. First off, we have the Red Rabbits and the Green Guardians, both teams which haven't changed since MCC8, as they wanted a second chance to prove themselves as a team since they were screwed over by glitches or other factors out of their control. We also see some other interesting teams, but I'll save that for the subjective analysis. Now, onto the statistical analysis. This spreadsheet that you're looking at now took literal days to compile, even though I already had a compiled spreadsheet for games until MCC7. You see, for my old spreadsheet, I used raw data that had already been gathered and used that to analyze the MCC8 teams. No one has done that yet for the MCC8 tournament, so I sat down and went through a VOD from every team in MCC8 and compiled every single player's unmultiplied personal score from every event, with the exception of Ace Race, for which the data might be kinda skewed, but check the description for more on that. Then I divided all of those scores by 8, multiplied by MCC7 averages by 7 and divided those by 8, added them all up, and I got my averages. I think that made sense? It probably didn't, but hey, you didn't come here for math, you came here for an analysis. So let's get started. For real this time. Coming in at last place with the statistical least chance of winning MCC9, we have the Pink Parrots. With Grian, In the Littlewood, Solidarity Gaming, and Smallish Beans, also called Joel, this is a team which consists of basically only Minecrafters, with the exception of In the Littlewood, also called Martin, who is an OG Minecrafter either way. This team is, however, made up of rather mediocre players. Though Joel and Martin have popped off in a few games in the past, and though they're all good players, they didn't compare to the other players in MCC, and thus could not push the team high enough, and thus they placed last. It's also worth noting that most of the parrots aren't at all PvP or minigame oriented YouTubers, so it's not expected for them to perform spectacularly, especially against other YouTubers who have played in minigame style events for their entire Minecraft careers. Next up we have the Purple Pandas. This team comes in at second to last place, and this is mostly due to two factors. First off, we have the fact that SB737, an objectively quite good player, played his first MCC in MCC8. The same thing happened with Sapnap in my MCC8 prediction, and SB's learning curve, as well as just a few bad luck moments, really brought down his score, and thereby the score of the entire team. The second factor is that GizzyGazza, a popular Minecraft YouTuber, doesn't really focus on Minecraft gameplay. His channel is based around Minecraft roleplay and skits, and therefore he isn't as technically skilled at the game as one might expect of any Minecraft YouTuber, and this, of course, reflects in his score, and thereby the Purple Pandas score. The next team we have is the Yellow Yaks. This team comes in at such a low spot for just one reason, really. Though there are extremely skilled players on this team like Quig and FWhip, Rip Mika and Gamerbury are where this team loses in points. The problem is that Gamerbury is an objectively average or below average player, which on its own might have been compensated for by other tournaments where she had played with stronger teams or just by FWhip and Quig themselves. The problem lies in the fact that Rip Mika has only played in MCC once, and that it was in MCC8. Now again, on its own, even if Mika isn't quite a good player objectively, her score might have been saved by games like Sands of Time, where coins are split equally. However, Mika's team last MCC, the Orange Ocelots, was just nowhere near good enough to carry Mika in this manner. They're not the most skilled players, and they were playing for fun, and they played half the event a player down. And a combination of all of these factors was what led to the Yellow Yaks placed at this point in the rankings. Next in the rankings, the Blue Bats. Now, this is an extremely interesting team for many reasons. We have two of the best players in the tournament, H-Bomb and Fruitberries, teamed with OG Minecrafters like Rendog and False Symmetry. And this is where we really see the strength of the teams in this tournament. I explain more about the strength of teams increasing in this video, link in the card, but the takeaway is that with each season of MCC, the standards for the contestants get higher and higher, and the competition gets harder and harder. But anyway, H-Bomb and Fruit really carried this team in my opinion, though it's also important to note that False and Ren have been playing for fun in the past few MCCs, but I'll elaborate on that in the subjective portion of the video. The Orange Ocelots are up next, a team which again is unbelievably strong to be placed this low. We have CPK and Tapple, both of whom are great players, who really carry the team, along with Shovel, who has also performed well in the past and definitely carries her own weight as a member of the team. The main reason this team ranked so low is, again, the fact that Pearlescent Moon has played for fun in the last few events, just like False Symmetry and Rendog. Even though Pearl does practice quite a lot, since MCC is such a team-based event, all of your practice can be for naught if you get a particularly unlucky set of teammates or if you play for fun, which is what caused the Ocelots to be placed here in 6th place. In 5th place, we have the Lime Llamas. Again, an extremely strong team consisting of Dream, Fundy, Sylvie, and new contestant, Tubbo. There are a few reasons the Llamas are so low. First off, you have Fundy either throwing an ace race of MCC 8 or at least performing very badly. Now this didn't really drag Fundy's score down that much, but it certainly brought his score down to the average player's level, which is an advantage that the Llamas really couldn't afford to lose. In addition to this, Sylvie, who is by no means a bad player, underperforms in just a few games and is just around average in the rest, which is again just an opportunity for more points being wasted. In addition to this, you also have to consider Tubbo. Since this is Tubbo's first MCC, he's consigned to being an average of the other players, which again is an opportunity for more points wasted. Now, just a little side note here, but being consigned to an average isn't always bad. In fact, there's an example of it being massively helpful for a team, statistically, in this very ranking. Just thought I should clarify that. Just narrowly missing a podium spot, we have the Red Rabbits. This is again quite a good team with good scores all around. The Rabbits lose out on 3rd place by literally 1 point in the average, meaning that they were about 44 points off, points that were lost in games like Skyblockle, Survival Games, and Sands of Time. Notably, all 3 of these major point deficiencies in these games were from Wilbur Soot. It's also quite interesting to see this particular combination of games being the reasons for failure, as they're extremely risk-reward based games, and from this I think it's fair to assume that these low averages aren't actually a reflection of Wilbur's performance as a player, but are low because of 1 or 2 big risks that didn't pay off, leading to little to no points being gained. The first team on the stats podium for MCC 9 is the Green Guardians. It's at this point that it starts to become really hard to distinguish the reason behind these statistics, and it's really coming down to average points in a single game which separate 3rd, 2nd and 1st place. That said, the Green Guardians lost out on those few crucial points in Sands of Time and Rocket Spleef. The Sands of Time points were lost by Critzy, as in MCC 5 he only managed to get a total score of 8, which, as you can probably tell, really hurt his average. In Rocket Spleef, on the other hand, the problem is that Sapnap and George have only played it once in MCC 7, and presumably due to the steep learning curve that came with all the new features that were added to Rocket Spleef, they lost out on points. The reason this isn't so visible in other teams is because other players were already familiar with and comfortable with regular Rocket Spleef, and they didn't have to learn quite as much as George and Sapnap, which put them at a disadvantage and led to them getting lower points when new features were added to Rocket Spleef. Next up, we have the Cyan Creepers, and the fact that this team came in 2nd really surprised me. This team is made of very good players, and I honestly can't even explain the reason behind them coming in at 2nd. My best guess is that in 2 games, Hole in the Wall and Ace Race, there are just a few low scores which drag the Creepers down. The reason I'm not too sure in this explanation, however, is because of Pete. Pete's scores in Hole in the Wall alone should be more than enough to balance out the other low scores without even considering his Ace Race score. Either way, the stats don't lie, and the Creepers are consigned to 2nd. Then, the team with the best statistical advantage of winning MCC 9 in 1st place is the Aqua Axolotls. Now this, again, is a very unlikely thing to occur. The reason? This team is made up of Technoblade, Calvin, Finster, and Spifey. The catch here is that Finster and Spifey are consigned to being averages. Technoblade and Calvin, arguably 2 of the best players in the event, are the only players whose scores I can actually input into the spreadsheet, meaning that Finster and Spifey are being considered as good as the average of Technoblade and Calvin, which, no discredit to them, they most definitely are not. Don't get me wrong, they're great players, but they're nowhere near the level of Technoblade and Calvin. I would have corrected for this average increase/decrease thing, but I'd like to keep this part of the video as objective as possible, and I was flamed in the comments of my previous video for adding to SB's score to try and correct for him being a good player. Well, so yeah, the Aqua Axolotls win statistically. However, as you can tell from all the averaging shenanigans that are going on, raw statistics shouldn't be blindly trusted when predicting outcomes. So without further ado, let's get into the subjective portion of the video. So for the subjective portion of the video, let's start off with the Blue Bats. For this team, I can see an initial roadblock in chemistry between 2 halves of the team. As you probably know, Rendog and Faltz are both players who have played only for fun in the past, and this means that there might be a bit of a disconnect between them, H-Bomb and Fruitberries, both of whom are very serious players. However, it's also important to note that Faltz has apparently been waiting to be put on a strong team so that she can really try her best, and it's widely agreed that she's quite good at PvP and with a bow, or at least good enough to hold her own in a fight, or in the final round of Dodgeball. As for team leader, I can see either False or Fruitberries leading the team. Though H-Bomb is a great player, he's more of a background player, and that's why I can't really see him leading. Next up, let's discuss the Lime Llamas. The Llamas, in my opinion, won't have any problems with chemistry. Both Fundy and Dream have teamed with Sylvie before, and thanks to the Dream SMP, Fundy, Dream and Tubbo probably won't have any chemistry problems either. As for leadership, I'm almost certain that Dream will lead this team, but I'm fairly certain that with all the synergy that is built up between the Llamas in the past, the need for a leader figure will be greatly diminished, even in hectic games like Build Mart. The Pink Parrots are next, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't really see this team having any problems. Most of the Parrots are quite good at communicating effectively, and I can't really see any problems arising with chemistry, as Martin and Solidarity have teamed on a regular basis, and even though Smallish Beans and Grian haven't teamed with them before, they all play in very similar styles, which will probably gel well. I can also see Joel or Grian leading this team, however more so Joel than Grian. Let's talk Red Rabbits. It's pretty obvious that this team won't have any chemistry issues as they've all teamed multiple times before, and because they all specifically requested this team for a redemption arc. Initially, I thought there might be some discord between Tommy and the rest of the team, as he wanted to team with Tubbo, but was forced to stay in the Red Rabbits by Wilbur, who blackmailed him with his vlog gun. I don't really think this will apply though, for that same reason, because whatever annoyance Tommy might have acted like he was having for the bit would be completely outweighed by the vlog gun, and therefore I don't see this team having any chemistry problems or even leadership problems for that matter, as they've shown multiple times that they can efficiently and fluidly change leaders, even mid-game. On the topic of recurring teams, the Green Guardians. Again, another recurring team which I can't really see having many problems. There's not much to say here, it's fairly cut and dry. The Guardians have worked well together with this team in the past, and therefore it's likely that they'll continue to do so in the future as well. Now, onto the Yellow Yaks. This is the first team I can see having quite a few chemistry issues. With Quig and F-Whip almost always being serious players, there might be a clash in their playstyles and that of Rip Mika and Gamerbury, both of whom are more chilled out. This could lead to some tense moments because, as a serious player, some situations just aren't conducive for jokes or casual conversation, unlike how it might be for a casual player. I'm sure that the individuals in the Yaks will get along, but I'm fairly certain that their playstyles won't, and this could end up being a problem for them. In addition to this, I can pretty easily see Quig or F-Whip leading this team and assuming that all-important leadership position in games like Build Mart. The Purple Pandas are up next. Now, the only outlier in this team is SB737, given that the rest of the Pandas have all teamed before and that they seem to have pre-existing chemistry. I'm not too sure about how well SB will gel into the team, but I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and say that this team will have good chemistry all around. I'm also of the opinion that Jerome will act as the leader for this team and maybe exchange it with SB for a few certain games. Up next, the Orange Ocelots. CPK and Shovel, both having teamed before, shouldn't have any chemistry issues, as they won the MCC that they've played together. I'm also fairly certain that Tapeld's playstyle will also mesh well with that of Shovel and CPK, as they both play seriously quite regularly, and Callum especially practices quite a lot, as did Tapel, as was evident from his MCC8 scores. Pearlescent Moon initially might look like a mismatch for the chemistry of this team, given that she's only played for fun in the past. However, similar to False Symmetry, Pearl practices quite a bit for MCC, and therefore I think it's fair to assume that she'll fit in fairly well with the rest of the team, albeit with a less involved role. As for leadership, I think that again the leadership for this team will be fluid, switching between all the members as necessary in each game to suit each other's playstyle. Our second to last team is also the statistical second place team, Cyan Creepers. This team is quite interesting for a few reasons. First off, and this is probably a highly controversial opinion, but from what I've observed, I'd be willing to say that Pete performs to the same standards no matter which teams he's on. Now, I don't have any stats to back this opinion up, so take it with a truckload of salt. However, even without this in mind, I'm certain that he'll get along just fine with just the rest of the team, as his playstyle is very similar to theirs. As for the rest of the team, there shouldn't be any issues either, as I can see Captain Sparkles taking the lead here. He's teamed with both Puffy and Kara Corvus before, and therefore it's only fair to assume that their chemistry won't be much of a problem for the Creepers either. And lastly, we have the Aqua Axolotls. I saved this team for last because there's quite a bit to say about it. Right off the bat, it's no secret that Techno and Calvin have great chemistry, even though Calvin is decidedly louder than Techno. What with Calvin even having trained Techno for his recent deal with Dream, there's literally no question that Techno and Calvin will work well together, especially in PvP based games. The problem for the Axolotls lies with Spifey and Finster. Both Finn and Spifey are highly extroverted players who, in my opinion, won't gel well with Techno or Calvin. The difference in personalities between these two halves of the team could really affect the team as a whole. I also have to mention here that even though this team came first in the statistical comparison, I highly doubt that this will be the case in the actual event. As I've said, Finster and Spifey are considered equal to Techno and Calvin in terms of skill for that average, and that's just not plausible in the slightest. So subjective analysis over, what are my predictions for MCC9? Well, I'd place the Cyan Creepers in the winning spot for this tournament, followed by either the Aqua Axolotls or the Red Rabbits. I'd also place either the Green Guardians or the Red Rabbits in third place. Anyway, those are just my opinions, be sure to form your own based on the information down in the comments. Also, all the spreadsheets and documents I made or used are linked in the description, but if you're using them for a video, please credit me. I really do hope that you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!